Dan Celia.
Our poverty level has done nothing but go up.
I really, really appreciate your show and everything that you're doing. May God bless you.
Your personal economy.
You can't say, I don't want any risk. I don't want to take any risk. I just want to put my money in a CD and forget about it. But I want to earn 18% a year. It doesn't work that way.
Conservative talk radio you can count on.
Once again, Steve Forbes. Hey, Steve, how are you?
Dan, good to be with you.
Financial Issues with Dan Celia.
Hi, Dan. I just want you to know how much I really appreciate the passion that you have.
Aligning reality with truth.
And I've got Congresswoman Bachman with us right now.
So I just want to thank you. I want to thank your listeners.
We need to save America and keep it intact for our children and grandchildren.
Now, here's your host, Dan Celia.
Welcome back to the second hour, AFR Talk, Financial Issues. I'm Dan Celia. I neglected last hour just to mention, because this is so important to me and my wife and what we do with this every year, but I neglected to mention Gospel for Asia. And listen, everything's a stretch for so many people this year. I know it's a tough Christmas, but at the same time, when we look back, if we go back to 2008 and look at the fact that by the grace of God, regardless of our circumstances, the vast majority of you listening to this, God has provided. If not all of you, God has provided. You still have a roof over your head. May not be the roof you want, but it's what you need. You still have bread on the table. It may not be the bread you want, but you have bread on the table. God's so faithful to us. He promises to fulfill our needs, not our wants. He promises to take care of us, not give us prosperity. And I know that for $11 a month you can, or $11 one time, you can give 2 chickens to a family that you could change their life, not only economically, but eternally. And you're going to help spread the gospel. Be a steward of the gospel of Jesus Christ by getting the gospel in some of these impoverished areas in Asia. And I hope you'll do that right now. And for as little as $11, you can also get sewing machines, goats, pigs, cows, water filters, all kinds of life-changing things that are going to change these folks, and you're going to give a pastor an opportunity to deliver the gospel of Jesus Christ with it. Go to afr.net, and check out Gospel for Asia, afr.net. You can call, if you want to make that gift, 877-907-4628. 877-907-4628. Don't let this Christmas go by without doing that, please. 888-589-8840. All the major indices just moved positive. The Dow just moved negative, but again, very small movement. Not a whole lot of change. So the Philly Fed Index. Now, I don't know if you remember, but earlier in the week I was talking about the Empire State Index and how negative, in fact, it really was. It was far, I think it was about a 16-point difference between what was expected. They expected the Empire Fed, the manufacturing index, not to be as negative as it's been, and it was, in fact, even more negative than it had been, and a lot more negative than they had expected. Now, remember, when we talk about these indexes, we're talking about a baseline of 0. Okay, 0 means no change. Anything above 0 means expansion. It means growth. It's a good thing. And we got the Philly numbers came out. The Philadelphia Fed numbers came out, and it's my guess is why the markets are moving positive right now, but they just came out a few minutes ago. And the index improved to a reading of a positive 8.1. Well, that's good, right? Yeah, but listen. It was a negative 10.7. That's a swing of 18. That's huge. So in November, at a 10.7 number, negative 10.7, we're now well above the negative reading that was expected of 4 points. That's what was expected. We're well above that. So that is very good news. I would expect that, and primarily it came from new orders. The new order index increased 15 points. So there were a lot of new orders that came in the month of November, increased dramatically 15 points. And the current shipment index jumped 25 points. That's all. This is somewhat of a leading indicator, giving us a glimpse into at least this segment. I said about the Empire Index, there's an awful lot of manufacturing, frankly, more manufacturing and such in that region than is in the Philly Fed region, but nevertheless, an awful lot when you look at other areas of the country in the Philly Fed Index. So I would expect that markets would move negative, and they did. The Dow just popped down to positive. I'm sorry. And they are all positive. It just went positive again. So I think that's good news. I mean, look, again, is it going to trump concerns on the fiscal cliff? Not likely. Speaking of fiscal cliff, I want to point this out. I know I've got a lot of small businessmen that are listening to this program, men and women that are starting a new business, that are small business entrepreneurs that are trying to make a go of it. Maybe they're folks that couldn't get a job that have decided, hey, look, I'm just going to try this on my own. Or maybe they're been struggling along for the last 4 or 5 years. Maybe some of them been small businesses and S corporations for a long period of time. Well, the fact of the matter is, it doesn't look like we're going to get any kind of reform. We're not getting any reform out of either the Republicans or the Democrats. Probably, we're continuing to hear talk about what real cuts are and what they're not. We're hearing more and more about the smoke and mirrors and the deception that we're getting about the deficits. It's all a joke, folks. Let me just put things in perspective before I mention this, because I think this is important. So last year, now listen to this, because I think this is important. Last year, last fiscal year of the government, we spent $222 billion on interest to service our debt. Okay? $222 billion just on interest. Now, that was as of September 30th, right? Now, remember, we're adding to these deficits. We're adding to these deficits every day. As we add to deficits, obviously, there's more interest due. So that number's going up. So $222 billion last year. We also spent, just as a course of routine in the government, okay, just for the government to exist and to be able to meet their payrolls and pay the light bills and all those things that the government needs money for. We spent, you and I, the taxpayers and the government, spent $3.5 trillion. $3.5 trillion. We keep hearing about spending cuts. I want you to understand that none of the spending cuts proposed, even if we are okay with the ones that are, deceptive cuts, the ones that are saying, well, we're going to save money because we're not going to do a particular project that we did before. Talking about future spending, that's not cuts. Even if we include those and say they are cuts, do you understand that we're not even dipping in to the $220 billion of interest? We're not even getting into that. Meanwhile, the $3.5 trillion is continuing to grow. Okay? Do we get that? I mean, one of the biggest insults, I talked about this yesterday, one of the biggest insults to the public's intelligence and common sense is Mr. Obama demanding more spending now. Do you know that his proposal includes more spending, and we're not even getting cuts that are going to dip into the current spending? And so we've got to get at least to the $4 or $5 trillion mark before we get in to lowering the spending and dipping into the deficit. If we go along with either proposal, the Republican proposal or the Democrat, either one of those, do you understand, folks, that we will continue to get ourselves deeper and deeper in trouble, and it's not going to change until we look just like Greece? It's not going to change. I don't mean look like Greece as far as debt to GDP. We've already surpassed Greece in that. But that we actually look like Greece as far as our economy, unemployment, protests, people not working, and austerity measures that are going to be deep, deep cuts, throwing us into recession, a permanent recession, or not permanent, but for many, many years, maybe leading to a depression until we see long food lines, the government needing to spend money on more and more programs just to feed its people. That's where we're headed. Do you understand that we can criticize Boehner, we can criticize a president, we criticize both sides? Both sides are not even close to truly helping America for the next generation. For that matter, for this generation. Not doing a thing. And I just want to, and I'm going to make sure, folks, that I keep this before you because you need to understand that. I don't want you to start drinking the Kool-Aid that media's putting out there, or that Boehner's putting out there, or Cantor, or any of the Democrats. We've got President Obama that wants to extend jobless benefits by $30 billion a year, $50 billion a year for public works, and they have the nerve to talk about doing what's right for America. I was almost going to say it's pathetic, because you hear me say that a lot. It really, it's so far beyond that. It's unpatriotic. It's irresponsible to use Obama's words when he was speaking about George Bush with his $8 trillion worth of debt. And it's more than that. Don't, please, I'm making this plea to the Republicans. Please don't go on TV at any press conference and talk about what the president's trying to do. Please don't go on TV talking about and criticizing the president's plan. Please don't do that. You're really looking bad when you do that. I don't want to hear Republicans criticizing Obama. It's like Timothy Geithner criticizing China for manipulating their currency.